Okay, Jasper Kirk out here with Dustin Pickering and ZM Wise of Transcendent Zero Press. Uh, we're going to do a short interview. I guess we'll start. Dustin, do you want to tell us about your latest project?
Well, this book is Frenetic No Contest, and the cover art is taken from my own visual art. I did this little piece of pastel work in 1999 as I was slowly losing my mind, and basically that's it's very symbolic and makes you think. And the art inside is by Red Fox of Alien Buddha Press, and he let me take about 5 images from his online collection and use them to write ekphrastic poetry, which I basically selected 5 different styles of poetry, 5 different forms, including blank verse, or no, free verse, I'm sorry, and basically wrote in those 5 forms, the same 5 forms for each of the images. So it's a very unified and regimented work in and of itself. And so this book, it's about $11 on CreateSpace or on Amazon if you'd like to check it out. There's contests coming up, and it'll be a lot of fun to just throw your integrity into it, see what happens.
ZM, you have an event coming up in Friendswood. Would you like to tell us about that?
Not really, but since you were paying me, I totally will. No, yes, the ekphrastic poetry reading is coming up. It'll be on Saturday, August 19th at the Friendswood Library. I believe it's at 7 o'clock. It was this ekphrastic poetry contest. You would send in your best ekphrastic pieces, and it's selected by a blind jury, and I'm performing along with many others, including the person who introduced me to ekphrastic poetry several years ago, Miss Vanessa Zimmer-Powell. She is I call her the ekphrastic queen, really. That's almost everything she writes about is ekphrastic poetry. It's absolutely incredible. And after the event, the top contest winners will be announced as well. Besides that, I've submitted a few manuscripts here and there to publishers and to contests as well. I don't particularly make myself too involved in contests, as I'd rather just submit to publishers and journals on my own without a special occasion. But I wanted to see what would happen. I really do. I'm starting to have some higher hopes for my work. I've been more polished than ever over the years, and I think almost any creator could describe themselves in this way. It could either be an upward prism or a downward spiral. It's completely up to you. You are progress. So, besides that, this year I've had just a blitz of individual poems published several places, including this one place in New York. It's called Oculum. It's a speculative literature journal, and it's more directed towards the dark and gothic. And I submitted a few pieces from an epic poem I wrote last year, shorter poems from the epic that aren't in the epic but belong to the epic. And within 3 days, I received an enthusiastic response from the editor-in-chief. She was absolutely just blown away by the entire thing, and she wanted to know more about the epic. And of course, she published all 4 of them. So I post every single one of my individual poems as videos, and you can read the text on my Tumblr as well.
Aside from Tumblr, what other mediums do you use?
I'm on Twitter purely to promote my poetry and the arts in general, from visual art to music to film to the culinary arts, almost any form of creation, really. I promote that on Twitter, and I'm a huge supporter of many other different categories on there. And I will promote publishers, small presses especially. I highly encourage more people to become involved with the indie press. To me anyway, it's the right way to go. And if you want to know how I feel about that further, you can check out the video that Dustin and I were in. We gave a lecture a long time ago, anthology publishing and indie publishing. We gave this lecture at Austin Community College at a poetry festival recently. Or not recently, but a few years ago. So, but yeah, I'm not on. It's a social media handle, but I'm not on there to be social. If that makes sense.
Dustin, tell us about Harbinger Asylum.
Well, Harbinger Asylum was the brainchild of a mutual exchange between myself and my friend who is now the political columnist, if not quite a political column, Alex Moss. I finally came to the conclusion that there was no way I'd ever get the attention of big publishers or any major outlets that would just come to me, and that's pretty much common sense. But I decided I was going to put my foot in the door and try to build something from nothing. I knew my writing had value, and Alex is also kind of a disenfranchised writer, and so I talked to him about it, and he just kind of throws out there, I think his word was harbinger. He said, I like that word, let's use the word harbinger. And I thought about it, I said, what about Harbinger Asylum? And it fit, it just worked. And we started with the tagline, you'll never know what you will find in Harbinger Asylum. And that lasted as we did printout versions of it for probably 2 or 3 years until we switched over to the Create Space with the Perfect Bound editions. And over the years, I think it has drastically improved in terms of both content, the art that we use, everything. And it's also helped build my confidence in terms of when I approach a publisher or a small press or something, I have some leeway. I can say I have an award-nominated journal. 2013, it was nominated by the National Poetry Awards as a best poetry journal. And I actually traveled to go to that award ceremony, and we did not win, but we ran close to the people who, the incumbents, I call them, the journal called Spoken Visions, and we were right there, right close to them in second place, and they had won the last few times, so we had some pretty tough competition. But the journal it's a symbolic name, and it basically comes down to a harbinger is a messenger, usually of bad news, a kind of omen. Of course, asylum is, you can have an insane asylum, or you could have political asylum, or basically a safe zone for someone who, the harbingers of today have this safe space to be able to talk about, the issues confronting the world, and I have a strong opinion concerning, certain kinds of protest and social justice poetry, and a lot of other things that are, the aesthetics out there. I don't want any aesthetic drowning out other aesthetics, so I am very inclusive in terms of what I will publish and what we do publish. I'm mostly into what I call poetry of ecstasy and engagement, which to me that's a very personal battle. And so if you're writing straight from your heart, from your own experience and what you have seen, and you can write passionately, in a literary manner, and sublimate this ideas you have, and make them into something, both productive and beautiful, you've got 5 stars from me as far as I'm concerned, because that is a tough task. And I think that's part of what poetry is intended to do, is create something sublime. I don't think it's effective as a political tool. I don't know anybody who's read a poem and said, wow, I didn't know I was racist, I'm going to stop being a racist. It doesn't happen. They don't even listen to reason. So, how's it going to persuade me? I don't want to be persuaded. I want the person who's reading it to be fulfilled, to heal of their own personal emotions and the problems they have. that to me is what poetry does. It uses language as a medicine in some sense.
Well, awesome. Thank you both. Y'all are both an inspiration, and I appreciate the opportunity to be part of this conversation.
Poetry lives. You push the red button.